t-shirt. We typically design a t-shirt. This was last year's shirt. FCCLA was celebrating this year the 75th anniversary, so that was a big push for last year. Was a big 75 years in existence total. So that was last year's. The one over on the far side was the year before. This was a couple of years ago. This was a state shirt from state. Texas national shirt from the year we went to nationals in 2016. We went to, I think this was to San Diego. Yeah, this was when we went to San Diego. So those are things that come along with some of that too when you pay your dues and your fees. Then as we travel in advance, there are other shirts that come along that come part of the expenses for that as well. Okay, attend meetings, have some fun, meet some new people. A lot of good things that happen. All right, what will we do? We're gonna have some fun, we're gonna help our community. One of the big things that we do through FCCLA is we do a lot of community service. Community service is what? Who knows what community service means? Yep.
Like if you go and feed the homeless or like you take up trash off the side.
Perfect, exactly. Those are two very good examples. If we feed the homeless, pick up trash, maybe we do a project where we clean, not even clean, we just go, we did a project 2 years ago that went to nationals, called it Beautiful Feet was the name of our project, but helping homeless hearts, but they went to Beautiful Feet. Anybody know anything about Beautiful Feet? No. Beautiful Feet is a program in downtown Fort Worth that feeds and ministers to the homeless in the community, and they give out clothing and food every Sunday. So once a month for the whole year, a group of students would go down and help hand out clothes to these people as they would come in. So it was pretty interesting. They learned a lot about themselves, learned a lot about helping and serving others, because community services were going to do something for somebody else. The very first project that we had that went to nationals was a trash pickup. We cleaned up the park in Springtown. Did we use sticks? We didn't. We just used gloves and picked up trash. But we could do it however you wanted to. So you come up with your projects. But that was the students' project that wanted to go. They wanted to do something for environmental. It's called Environmental Ambassador at the time. It's called Sustainability Challenge now. But they did a whole project on cleaning up our community and how important it is, and why do we need to keep the parks clean, and why do we need to make sure the trash is out of the lakes and the creeks and the waterways, right? How does that impact everybody down the road? And so because of that, they were the first team that we had here in Springtown that went to nationals. That region, they placed second to advance to state, and then at state, they beat the team that beat them at region to be able to qualify to go to nationals, and then brought home a silver medal from nationals, which is still a pretty big deal at that level, because as you can imagine, national means all 50 states plus Puerto Rico. So it's a big organization, okay? That's where this competition comes in, competitive events, that's what you get to do, and we'll talk about those a whole lot more as we go on. Because to me, that's what makes it fun, is being able to compete, being able to go meet new people, travel. You're gonna also see up here, these are lanyards from nationals, mostly. This was nationals 2 years ago when we went to Los Angeles, and we spent a week in Los Angeles, and one of the big things that you do at nationals is you do trading pins. So we created in 17, when I took a student to Nashville, I made trading pins. I had pins created just for us from Springtown. The state gives us pins as part of our registration for nationals, but you only get like 10. Well, you can imagine that 10 doesn't go very far, right? When you get to nationals and there's 1,000 kids there or whatever. So we created our own pins in 2017. See if I can find it. Where is my pen? And we were able to then trade and get quite a few other. I don't see my pen. It's a Texas. It says Springtown, has a quill on it. But you know, when you get there and people are like, you're like, we don't trade pins, where are you from, Texas? Oh, I already have Texas, but you said, but you don't have this Texas, so made it a lot fun. So that year, in 2019, in the summer of 2019, they were able to really trade and get, you know, a whole neck full of pins because they had enough to be able to get, they had about 50 pins apiece, so they could get nearly every state that they wanted if they worked hard. And some of them did get Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico is really hard to get because there's only like 6 kids from Puerto Rico there. So it's really hard to trade pins with somebody when there's only 6 people there, and then finding them even because it's a lot of people. Okay? So it's a lot of fun. Yes? What? Promote well-being of ourselves and families. We want to promote families. We want to do things that are family-oriented. We want to do things that are good for our community. One of the other big projects that we typically support is the food drive that's done every fall. That's been one of our projects since I came in 2015. And we do the food drive, and that's something we can always present as a community service project in our STAR events as well. Yeah.
How do y'all like compete?
You have to, and I'll show you. I'm gonna show you some of that in just a minute. You have to present, see these boards? You have to make a display. Then you have to go speak in front of people and share what you did. It's not hard. It's really not, because it's about a 10-minute presentation, and typically you're not alone. Most of the competitions can be done in groups of 3, which makes it nice, so you have a team and you can kind of rely on that. You got from now to February to figure out how that's going to be presented. And I work with you, and we practice and we practice and we practice and we go present. This is, try and find it. This is, I'll show you some projects too, but last year, how many of you did the dinner at the table? Remember when that dinner at the table stuff was all being announced in the spring? It was really getting big, and then the corona got us and we got beat out. So one of the projects that can be done too is also it's called Repurpose Redesign. So this was a student's project from last year, and I took an old ironing board and turned it into a jewelry organizer. Added a frame here to put some of the small earrings on, and then things to hang necklaces and other things off of. She did 2. You'll see a picture of both of those a little bit later as well. So it's pretty, there's a lot of different things you can do, and I can show you that. We'll talk about some of those a little bit later. Okay? Any questions so far? Eat, take trips, have fun. We got a Waco, we got a Dallas. Those are region and state office meetings, and then nationals is always somewhere else every year in a different place. Last year we were supposed to go to DC. We had a team that was qualified to go. Our dinner at the table team qualified for nationals by winning the state competition, but then corona got us and we had to do it virtually. And so you're gonna get to see their presentation that was done and sent in virtually for them to qualify. And they also then brought home a gold medal from the national meeting, still virtually.
Does that mean they have to like record themselves at home?
We did it here. We did it here. We came up after school was out, when nobody was around, and we could spread out and get in the room and do it here. Because we had to have it submitted before June 1st or June 7th or something. Okay? Any questions? All right. Let's look at the next one. Things we have planned for this year. Beyond Measure is the national, this is our national theme, Beyond Measure this year. Every year there's a new theme. Nationals for this one was Empower Me Power. This year our state theme was Connect and Commit. So every year there's a new theme. The state theme for this year is Discover Your Voice. They are still working on some of the 75th stuff that was gonna happen in the spring, that didn't happen in the spring, that will still probably be presented again this next year, just because there was a lot of stuff purchased that should have been made for a really exciting state event that didn't get to happen. They do sponsor an FCCLA dinner at the table, and it's usually in December one day. Really encourage that. That's what kind of intrigued the whole dinner at the table for us in the spring here, was to promote families sitting down and having meals together. It's important that families spend time together. How many of you eat together with your families at the table?
We eat on the couch.
How many of you eat every day at the table? Pretty much. How many of you sometimes eat at the table together? Okay? But those times, sitting down, putting the phone away, having true conversation, right? Because what's happened to us over the last 10, 15 years is we've become addicted to our phones. We can't go anywhere without having that phone in front of us to look at something or check something. You know, and it's bad at my house, and my kids are all grown, but I have to remind my husband, put it down, right? And I have to remind myself, put it away. Don't bring it to the table, because what happens when we bring it to the table, it's like bringing it to class. If it buzzes or beeps or flashes or whatever, what are you gonna do? We're gonna pick it up and look at it, right? So we need to make sure that we're not doing that we're really spending time with our families. Okay? Fall Leadership Conference. I don't know if we're gonna get to go to a Fall Leadership Conference this year. The last 2 years we've gone to one in Glen Rose, and then last year we went to Brewer High School for a conference. We spent the day, we took a day out of school, we took kids to go, we took about 60 kids, and we went to that, and it's a great opportunity for you to kind of get your first feel of what FCCLA looks like and what it might be if you went somewhere. But I don't know that we're gonna get to do that with what's going on. I think they may be doing some virtually, I'm not sure. State and region officers are required to host those events. That's part of the requirement as being an officer. So once you're elected, then you have to host at least one fall leadership or help host. So the last 2 years, we've had members of our district that have, former students that have gone to the high school and have been elected as officers, and then they helped run those events, so we've been to those. So it's a lot of fun to be able to get to do that as well. So I don't know if we'll get to do that this year. Still kind of up in the air. We may be able to get a region or state officer to come here and speak to you. And if I can do that, we'll do that. We do have a region officer in our region at the high school this year. Amy White, anybody know Amy?
No.
Yes.
Amy White was one of my members from 2 years ago. She went to nationals with us when we went to Los Angeles. Brought home a gold medal from Los Angeles as well. And she ran for office last spring, was elected as a regional officer for the Region 2. So there's 5 regions in Texas, so she made it as an officer last year. The year prior to that, Rory Willis, Isabel Burnett were also officers that were elected as 8th graders, went to the high school, served their time out. They could be reelected. They ended up not running again, those girls. Kimberly White was an officer for 2 years, her junior and senior year at the high school. As her senior year, she was on the state executive board as well. So, if you know any of those kiddos, those are people that we'll try to see if we can get some of them here. Might be able to get Kimberly to come share. She served at the region level, has gone to nationals. So I might be able to even get her here one day when she's not busy with work or school. All right, so here, what we see on this slide, this is what we call national programs. FCCLA sponsors some of their star events and their competitive events, but we also encourage some national programs, and here are some of them. Career Connection. Career Connection means that we're going to look at career options for us, okay? And we'll talk a little bit more about each of these a little bit more in detail. Facts, families acting for what? Community and traffic safety. So this would be any kind of project that you might do about traffic safety. This has been one that a lot of times is done with high school students because they talk about buckling up, or they might do it around prom time, do a big push for, safe driving and being safe on the road. It's harder for this age group just because you're not driving yet to do something in this area, but you could still do something here if you wanted to target texting and driving. How many of you have your parents when they're driving and they're texting while they're driving?
Oh, yeah, I used to work in
Yeah.
Atlanta every day.
Right? And that's probably the number one reason that we're distracted as we're driving, is because we are not paying attention to what we should be doing. Leadership, service, and action. This could be any kind of leadership action that you might do. Stop the violence is one that we've done previously. This could be anything related to the bullying, domestic abuse, child abuse, Could be anything related to violence, stopping somebody from being, dating, relationship abuse. There's a lot of things you could do with this. Families First would be any project that would be related to putting families out there. Okay? Families First actually was what we used as our project for last year's, when you'll see there's the national programs they did, because the Dinner at the Table became a national programs project. And when they presented that, they did it, I'm using the Families First as their number one, because they were putting families at the forefront of what we were doing. Does that make sense? Talking about health, safety, eating together, spending time together, etc. Student body, what do you think this would not be related to? Health, exercise, right? So if you want to start a fitness program, or you want to do something where you encourage your classmates to get out and walk, do something other than go home, sit on their computer or their cell phone, or etc., then there are lots of options for you to be able to do that with family, student body. Power of One. Power of One is it's an individual program. Power of One has 5 areas that you work towards competing on your own. You have the option to then go come up with your own little projects. And it's just a way for you to be recognized individually as a student. And then financial fitness would be anything related to money. Several years ago, quite a few years ago actually at this point, had a group of students did a financial fitness project. And what we did was we went to the elementary schools and we taught elementary students about money. The importance of money. What is money? How do you use it? How do you spend it? What's the value of money? And far early as kindergarten through like 6th grade. So we prepared lessons for kindergarten, which would be little money, like the difference between types of money, right? To 6th graders, you might be teaching them about credit cards, etc. Checks, writing, savings, banking. So there's a variety of things that could be done with this as well. And it was a pretty successful project too. We took it to nationals. That was quite a few years ago, like in the mid-90s when we did that one. But it's still, those things are real important today. All right? So here you go. These are important dates. Write them down. Oh, okay. Alright, Region 2 Leadership Conferences in Waco. These are the actual dates this year, provided everything goes well. We'll be attending these conferences. Waco, February the 25th through the 27th. We leave usually on a Thursday morning early, so we're out of school Thursday and Friday. We'll spend the night, 2 nights in Waco, and then we're back here Saturday afternoon by about 2 o'clock-ish, 2:30, something like that usually. You qualify. Here's what happens. You take your presentation to the region. If you qualify for state, you have to be in the top 5 in our region. Not typically real hard for us to do. I've not ever taken kids that didn't qualify and move on. I'll help you. We'll work hard. You just got to be committed to do a lot of work yourself. If you're in the top 5, you go to state. State, we usually leave on Wednesday after school. We spend Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night in a hotel in Dallas, attend the conference, Then we're back here again by Saturday afternoon, usually again about that 2 o'clock-ish, without any problem, okay? And then, if you qualify at state, to qualify for nationals, you have to be in the top 2. So, it's a pretty big deal to qualify for nationals, right? Because we have a pretty big state and we have a pretty big active membership in the state of Texas. So in order to be able to qualify and attend the national meeting, that means you've got to do pretty well, right, at the region level to be able to qualify and move on. I'm sorry? What? Okay, so be able to qualify and go to nationals. This year nationals will be in Nashville, Tennessee. The end of June, 1st of July. It's typically always around that same time. And it's usually about 10 days, 7 to 8 days or so that we're gone. You should leave on a Friday and come back or Saturday and come back the next Friday. A lot of times. Sometimes we've left as early as Saturday and not come back till late Friday, or we've left as early as Friday and come back, on the next Friday. So it just depends on what else is going on with the conference. But it's a lot of fun. The conference is probably, the conference times are when we have when you get to go out and do something different with new people. Right? Any questions so far? Alright, let's look at some fun facts. The organization started in 1945. November, I believe, of 1945. We're going to do a little scavenger hunt probably tomorrow in class. We're going to have to go find some real specific data on your computer yourself. But you'll have a form that you'll fill out. The organization colors are red, black, and white. Actually, are just pretty much red and white. The black is there. When you talk about the colors, they're going to tell you red and white. You are going to wear a lot of black. You're going to wear black pants or black skirt, and it's got to be solid for you guys. Okay, can't be printed like what I have on today, but you have to wear solid. I typically would have worn my solid black pants just to show you, and for ladies, and all the shirts have to have a collar, so this would not be appropriate for your conference wear. It is a staff shirt, so it would have to have a collar. Okay. Doesn't have to be a high collar. A lot of times what we buy is we'll try to see if we can't locate some polo style shirts, just because that could be something you wear when you're not competing. So then you have something nicer when you compete, but when you're not competing, you have on something that's kind of comfortable without spending a ton of money to get it. So that's something we talk about, as we'll get in that a little bit later after you join. The original name was FHA, Future Homemakers of America. The name change was in 1999. Actually, the summer of 99, I believe, when that name change came through. They voted every year at nationals to make a name change, and finally, in 1999, Texas said, "Okay, we're going to quit blocking the vote." Because up to that point, Texas was like, "Nope, we're holding on to FHA." So Texas takes the most delegates to nationals, so we always had the most votes, right?
When it was called FHA, was it associated with HOA?
Okay. So, national FCCLA theme for this year is Beyond Measure. Think beyond whatever you want to do. You can do whatever you want. And then the Texas theme is Discover Your Voice. All right. So what do you think that means, to discover your voice? How would you interpret that if I said discover your voice? How could it be interpreted?
Standing up for what you believe in.
Okay, stand up for what you believe in. Take a stand, be somebody, discover what's important to you, right? So there's a lot of ways that could be interpreted. So discover your voice. FCCLA is what you make of it. It's going to be a lot of fun if you invest your time into it. If you don't join, it's going to be boring. Okay? There are going to still be days you think, "Oh, this part's boring," but that's with everything in life, right? Everything's not always fun and games. But we do try to have a lot of fun and do a lot of interesting things. All right. What time do we get out?